Hey guys, we are reading chapter 9 today on Thursday, and chapter 9 is called Tailing a Dog. Well, Jimmy squeaked, you stuck me. Well, be still, Elizabeth Ann said. She blew her hair out of her eyes and got ready to try again. Jimmy wiggled away. Let me try, Granny said. She took the tiny bit of metal gently. Stand still, Jimmy. Where would be the safest place to put this? Hiram was securing the other bug to Blackie's collar. He looked up. Make sure it won't get wet. I've got to return these in good shape. So in the pocket? Granny asked. That'll be fine, Hiram replied. Granny pinned the bug inside Jimmy's pocket and zipped up the pocket. Jimmy, she said, you keep that pocket zipped, okay? Jimmy nodded. Can we go yet? Granny double-checked his pocket and then said, I guess so. They all went to the porch to watch Jimmy and Blackie head down the path to the beach. Blackie trotted ahead eagerly, glad to be free again. Jimmy followed. Every few steps, he hunched his shoulder up to his head. What's going on? Elizabeth Ann asked. What's he doing? Paul began to laugh. He's trying to talk into the bug. If he keeps this up, he'll be thrown off the beach. Granny even chuckled at Jimmy's odd movements. Well, I guess we'd better go see what he's saying. They gathered around the receiver Hiram had set up in the living room. Hiram adjusted the dials, and Jimmy's voice began coming in clearly. We're turning down the beach, he whispered. We just passed Duncan's plot. Suddenly, Jimmy switched back to his normal voice. Hi, Talmadge, what you found? Hi, Jimmy, Talmadge replied. Got chiggers, huh? Chiggers? Jimmy said, puzzled. Yeah, I saw you rub your shoulder with your head. Funny way to scratch, if I've ever seen it. Won't do any good anyhow. Those little bugs burrow in and you just can't get rid of it. Oh, Jimmy said. Try kerosene. Worked for me. Thanks, Talmadge, Jimmy said. I gotta go. Blackie's getting ahead of me. There was a silence in the living room. Elizabeth Ann began to giggle. Chiggers, she gasped. Chiggers? Granny chuckled. Well, maybe that'll account for his unusual movements, maybe. Jimmy's voice cut into their laughter. Blackie, Blackie, wait up, he shouted. Hiram quickly turned the volume down. I can see this is going to be a long day. Pull up a chair. They settled down with drinks and cookies. Elizabeth Ann had been giving the job of writing down what Jimmy said. Trying to keep a straight face, she wrote down the first ones. Are you sure she has to write down everything? Granny said. Sometimes mysteries are solved by one overlooked clue. Sometimes it is something that has been overlooked for years, and in this case it could be many years, Hiram said. He and Paul spread out the map on the coffee table. Paul's job was to track Blackie's movements by marking the places on the map. He made the beginning mark at the beach path, and he thought about where Talmadge Plot was. Then he made a careful mark, and then he connected the two dots. Jimmy's comments into the bug dwindled as he began to have fun. Still, his chatter to Blackie kept them informed about what was happening. The two investigated a crab and then let it go. They checked out the tide pools left by the receding water. Then they climbed out onto the rocks down by the restaurant. The room was suddenly filled with angry squawks of pelicans. Granny sat up straight. He's playing on those rocks again. One slip and he'll fall. Elizabeth Ann looked at each other wide-eyed. Jimmy had been warned not to play by the breakwater. But Blackie was chasing pelicans and Jimmy was chasing Blackie. He had forgotten all about the rules. He forgot, Granny, Elizabeth Ann said. He wouldn't just disobey. He forgot for long. He won't forget for long, Granny said. She marched to the phone and dialed the restaurant's number. The children could hear a part of the conversation with Charlie, the manager. A few minutes later, a big voice boomed into the receiver. Hey, Jimmy, your Granny said to get off the rocks. Yes, sir, came a startled reply. A few minutes later, Jimmy whispered into his end and said, Sorry, Granny, I forgot. Well, you better not forget again, young man, Granny answered. Then she realized that Jimmy couldn't hear her. There's a picture of him on the rocks. She threw up her hands. I'm going to go get some mending done. This thing's driving me out of my mind. The next hour or so was filled with Jimmy's play. Elizabeth Ann and Paul got bored, but Granny and Hiram listened. I'd forgotten what it's like to be a little boy, Hiram said. Jimmy is bringing back good memories. I know, Granny said. I've been that length of sand almost every day for 50 years, and for the last 30, I haven't seen half of what Jimmy has seen today. He does wake you up, Hiram agreed. Hey, here's a big shell, Jimmy said loudly. There was silence for a few moments. Then a booming, static burst into the room. They all jumped. A moment later, it stopped, and Jimmy's voice came back. "Did you hear the ocean?" Granny rubbed her ears. "I think we just listened to the inside of a conch shell," and Jimmy's heartbeat. "Where is he now?" Paul asked. "Let's see. He passed the restaurant. He must be near the amusement park." Paul made another mark on the map. "Blackie's heading in a straight line down the beach. Other than the climb up on the rocks, Jimmy isn't making any side trips. This is going to wash out." "Maybe," Hiram said. "You didn't expect this to work right away." "Did you?" Paul frowned. "Well, yeah, I kind of did." "Relax," Hiram said, trying to sound confident. "Something may happen just yet." "Well, I wish it would hurry up," Elizabeth Ann said as she stretched her legs. "Jimmy's having all the fun." "Hey, why can't we go with him tomorrow?" "When only Jimmy's with him, Blackie does more wandering," Hiram explained. "He knows Jimmy will follow." Paul was grinning. "So the dog isn't with Jimmy. Jimmy is with the dog. I thought there was a reason that Blackie likes Jimmy best." The receiver boomed again, but this time it wasn't Jimmy's voice. "Hey, kid!" Everyone in the room swung to look at the receiver. "You stay away from Blackie," Jimmy's voice said. "Aw, come on, kid," the other voice said. It had a strange, coaxing tone. "Is that the man who took Blackie?" Paul asked. "It sounds like him," Granny said. "I'm calling the police." "Keep listening, kids," Hiram said. "I'm going down there." "Wait for me," Granny called. She finished speaking and put the phone down. "I'm going too." And that's the end of chapter 9. Who do you think's there with Jimmy and with Blackie? So here for this page, it's called "Has Anyone Seen This Dog?" And it's got some descriptors about Blackie. And then down at the bottom, it's a lost sign. And this one wants you to fill in the blanks to describe how your dog would look. Like if you had to put up a "my dog's lost" sign, what could you put up about your dog? So for those of you who have a dog, you can describe your dog down here. For those of you who do not have your own dog at home, you can just make it about Blackie. Okay? All right, that is the end of Pelican Cove for this week. We will finish up our book next week. See you guys later.